I found the journal in a box marked Danny's room in my parents' attic, buried under old report cards and drawings I didn't remember making. It was small, barely bigger than my hand, bound in faded red leather that had cracked with age. The kind of journal they used to sell at bookstores with lock and key sets, meant for children to record their deepest secrets. I recognized it immediately. I'd gotten it for my 10th birthday. I'd written in it religiously for almost a year before I stopped. I didn't remember why I stopped. I didn't remember much about that year at all, actually. When I tried to think about being 10, about 5th grade, about anything from that period of my life, I found only fog. Gray, shapeless nothing, where memories should have been. I'd always assumed it was normal. Childhood memories fade. That's what happens. That's what everyone says. But sitting there in my parents' attic, holding that little red journal, I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Something that whispered this wasn't normal. This wasn't just forgetting. Something had been taken from me. I'm 32 years old. I came home for my father's funeral to help my mother sort through a lifetime of accumulated possessions, to say goodbye to the house I grew up in. The house my parents were selling because my mother couldn't bear to live here anymore. Not without him. I wasn't supposed to find anything that mattered. I wasn't supposed to find anything that would unravel the carefully constructed reality I'd been living in for 22 years. But I found the journal. And now I understand why I don't remember being 10. I opened it there in the attic, sitting cross-legged on the dusty floor, surrounded by boxes and old furniture and the ghosts of my childhood. The pages were yellowed but intact, filled with my own handwriting. The careful, blocky letters of a child just learning to write in cursive. The first entry was dated January 3rd, 1992, the day after my 10th birthday. I got a journal for my birthday. Mom says I should write down my thoughts. I don't know what thoughts to write. Today I had cake. It was chocolate. My favorite. I smiled despite myself. Such a simple entry, such an innocent beginning. I flipped through the pages. More entries followed. Descriptions of school, of friends, of a crush on a girl named Emily who sat in front of me in math class. Normal things, happy things. The mundane details of a child's life. But as the months went on, the entries began to change. March 15th, 1992. I saw something in the mirror today. It was standing behind me, but when I turned around, nothing was there. I don't think I was imagining it. April 2nd, 1992. The thing in the mirror is back. I see it every night now. It watches me while I brush my teeth. It doesn't have a face, just darkness where a face should be. April 18th, 1992. I told Mom about the mirror thing. She said it was just my imagination. She looked scared when she said it, though. Why would she be scared of my imagination? May 5th, 1992. I found out its name. I don't know how I know, but I know. Its name is Mr. Empty. That's what it wants me to call it. It talks to me now, not with words, with feelings. It puts feelings in my head that aren't mine. The cold in my stomach spread outward, filling my chest, my limbs. I remembered none of this, not the mirror, not the thing, not the name Mr. Empty. It was like reading about a stranger's life. But it was my handwriting, my journal, my childhood. I kept reading. May 22nd, 1992. Mr. Empty showed me something today. He showed me the place where he lives. It's dark there. So dark, and there are others like him, lots of others. They're all waiting for something. They've been waiting for a very long time. June 8th, 1992. Mr. Empty says I'm special. He says I can see things other kids can't see. He says that's why he chose me. He says I'm going to help him. with something important. He won't tell me what yet. June 19th, 1992. I don't want to help Mr. Empty anymore. The things he shows me are scary. The things he wants me to do are wrong. But he says I don't have a choice. He says we made a deal. I don't remember making a deal. July 4th, 1992. Mr. Empty is angry. He says I'm not cooperating. He says if I don't do what he wants, he'll hurt the people I love. He showed me what he means. He showed me what he can do. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. And I can't tell anyone because no one believes me. I stopped reading. My hands were shaking so badly, the pages blurred in front of me. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears, could feel sweat dripping down my back, despite the chill of the attic. This couldn't be real. I couldn't have written these things. I didn't remember any of this. But I knew, with a certainty that went deeper than memory, that every word was true. I forced myself to continue. July 15th, 1992. Something bad happened today. I did what Mr. Empty wanted. I drew the symbols he showed me. I said the words he put in my head. And something came through. Something from the dark place. It only stayed for a second, but I saw what it looked like. I saw what it really looked like. I don't want to write it down. I don't want to remember. July 28th, 1992. More things are coming through every night now. Mr. Empty says the door is getting wider. He says soon it will be wide enough for him to come through too. He says when that happens, everything will change. August 10th, 1992. I tried to stop. I tried to refuse. Mr. Empty hurt my dog. He hurt Biscuit so bad, the vet said he's never seen anything like it. Like something tore him apart from the inside. Mom and Dad think it was an animal attack. It wasn't. It was him. It was Mr. Empty. And he says he'll do the same thing to Mom and Dad if I don't keep helping. I remembered Biscuit, a golden retriever, the family dog. He died when I was 10. I knew that much. But I always thought, always believed it was a car accident. That's what my parents told me. That's the story that lived in my head. But now, reading these words in my own handwriting, I wasn't sure what was true anymore. August 22nd, 1992. The door is almost open. Mr. Empty showed me what's going to happen. First, he'll come through. Then the others, hundreds of them, thousands. They're going to spread across the whole world. They're going to make it dark everywhere. Like where they live, they're going to make everything empty. September 1st, 1992. I found a way to stop him. I found it in the library, an old book about things like Mr. Empty. It says they can be bound, locked away, but someone has to do the binding. Someone who can see them. Someone like me. September 5th, 1992. I'm going to do it tomorrow night, the binding ritual. I memorized all the words. I drew all the symbols. I'm scared, but I have to try. If I don't, he'll hurt everyone. He'll hurt the whole world. The we see entry stopped there. No, not stopped. There was one more page. One more entry. I turned to it with trembling hands. The date at the top made my blood freeze. Tomorrow's date, not September 1992. Not any date from my childhood. Tomorrow. The day after today. Written in the same childish handwriting. The same faded ink. On the same yellowed paper. He's coming back. The binding didn't hold. It was never meant to hold forever. Just long enough for me to forget. Long enough for me to grow up. Long enough for the door to finish opening from the other side. He's been waiting all this time. Waiting for me to find this journal. Waiting for me to remember. And now that I have, there's nothing stopping him anymore. He'll come tonight at 3:33 a.m. The same time I bound him 22 years ago. He'll come back and he'll make me finish what I started. I'm so sorry. I tried to stop him. I tried so hard. But some doors can't stay closed forever. I dropped the journal. It hit the attic floor with a soft thud that seemed impossibly loud in the silence. This wasn't possible. I couldn't have written an entry dated tomorrow. The journal had been in this box for 22 years. The ink was faded. The paper was yellowed. Everything about it was old. But there it was. Tomorrow's date. In my handwriting. I picked up the journal again, read the entry again. The words hadn't changed. The date hadn't changed. Tomorrow, 3:33 a.m. He's coming back. I looked at my watch. It was 4:17 p.m. Less than 12 hours until 3:33 a.m. Less than 12 hours until whatever I'd locked away came back. I climbed down from the attic in a daze. My mother was in the kitchen, making tea, her eyes still red from crying. She looked up when I came in. "Find anything interesting up there?" I almost told her. Almost showed her the journal, the entries, the impossible date. But something stopped me. The memory of what I'd written. The thing that called itself Mr. Empty, the threat it had made against my parents. "Just old school stuff," I said. "Nothing important." She nodded, turned back to her tea. I watched her for a moment, this woman who had raised me, who had loved me, who had apparently lied to me about how my dog died. What else had she lied about? "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart." "When I was 10, did anything strange happen? Anything you never told me about?" She went very still. Her hands stopped moving. For a long moment, she didn't turn around. "Why are you asking about that?" "I found some old journals. Things I wrote. Things I don't remember." She turned then, and her face was pale. Pale and afraid. The same way my 10-year-old self had described her in those entries. "What do you remember about being 10, Danny?" "Nothing, that's the thing. I don't remember anything. It's like that whole year is just gone." She sat down heavily at the kitchen table. Her hands were shaking. "After Biscuit died, you changed. You stopped sleeping. You started talking to yourself, talking to something in the mirrors. You said it had a name. You said it wanted things from you. Mr. Empty." Her face crumpled. "You remember?" "I read about it in the journal." "Mom, what happened? What happened that year?" "We took you to doctors, psychiatrists. They said it was trauma, a reaction to losing your dog. They put you on medication, but it didn't help. You kept getting worse. And then one night, you disappeared." "Disappeared?" "We found you in the backyard at 3 a.m. You were standing in a circle of symbols you'd drawn in the dirt. You were speaking in a language we'd never heard. And there was something with you, something we couldn't see clearly, and something that was standing right next to you." Her voice broke. Tears were streaming down her face now. "We didn't know what to do. We were so scared. And then suddenly it was over. You collapsed. When you woke up, you didn't remember anything. Not the mirrors. Not the voice. Not Mr. Empty. Nothing. The doctors said it was your mind protecting itself. They said we should never bring it up. They said if you remembered, it might break you. So you lied. About Biscuit, about everything. We were trying to protect you. We thought if you forgot, it would stay gone, whatever it was, whatever you'd done to it." "I bound it," I said. "I performed some kind of ritual. I locked it away." "Locked it away where?" I thought about the journal, about the entry dated tomorrow, about the words I'd somehow written 22 years ago about something that hadn't happened yet. "I don't know. But it's coming back. Tonight." My mother's face went white. "What do you mean, coming back?" I showed her the journal, the entry, the impossible date. She read it 3 times, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the pages. "This isn't possible. You haven't touched this journal in over 20 years? I packed it away myself. I know. Then how? I don't know. But I wrote it, somehow, and I think every word is true. We sat in silence for a long time. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the kitchen in shades of orange and red. The clock on the wall ticked away the seconds. Less than 11 hours now. What are we going to do? My mother asked. I have to remember, I said. The ritual, how I bound it the first time. If I could do it once, maybe I can do it again. And if you can't? I didn't have an answer for that. The house felt different as darkness fell. The shadows seemed deeper, more substantial. The silence was heavier, pressing against my ears like water. I caught myself checking over my shoulder constantly, expecting to see something standing there, something that wasn't there the moment before. At 7 p.m., the lights flickered. Just once, just for a second. My mother and I looked at each other but didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. At 8 p.m., I started hearing whispers, faint, barely audible, coming from somewhere I couldn't identify. At first, I thought it was the TV, or traffic outside, or pipes in the walls. But when I listened closely, I could make out words. Danny. Danny. We remember you. We never forgot. My mother heard them too. I could tell by the way her face went pale, by the way her hands gripped the edge of the table. It's getting stronger, I said. The binding is failing faster than I thought. Can you feel it? The way you could when you were a child? I closed my eyes. Tried to reach out with senses I hadn't used in 22 years, and yes, I could feel it. A presence at the edge of perception. Something vast and cold and patient, pressing against the walls of reality, waiting for the crack to widen enough to slip through. Yes, I said, I can feel it. The whispers grew louder, more distinct. Soon, Danny, so soon. You're going to let us in. You're going to open the door so wide. We've waited so long. We're so hungry. At 8:30 p.m., the mirrors started to change. I noticed it first in the hallway. My reflection was wrong. Not dramatically wrong, not obviously wrong, just slightly off. My movements were delayed by a fraction of a second. My expression didn't quite match how I felt. And in the depths of my reflected eyes, something darker than darkness looked back. I checked every mirror in the house. The same thing in each one. My reflection, but not my reflection. Something wearing my face like a mask. And in each mirror, that wrongness was getting more pronounced, more visible, more real. We need to cover them, I told my mother. All of them, anything reflective. We spent the next hour draping sheets over mirrors, turning picture frames to face the walls, covering the windows with blankets. It helped. The whispers faded, became less distinct, but I could still feel them just beyond the edges of perception. At 9:30 p.m., the phone rang. My mother answered before I could stop her. I watched the color drain from her face. Who is it? I asked. She held the phone out to me, her hand trembling. I could hear a voice on the other end, tinny and distant. I put it to my ear. Hello, Danny. My own voice. My voice as a child, high and clear and innocent. I wanted to warn you, the child's voice said, about what's coming, about what you have to do. Who is this? You know who it is. I'm you. The you from 22 years ago? The you who wrote that entry in the journal? That's not possible. Everything's possible tonight, Danny. The walls are so thin. Time doesn't work right when the door is opening. I can reach you from then. I can talk to you from the night I performed the binding. How? How did you write an entry dated tomorrow? Because I knew this would happen. Mr. Empty showed me before I bound him. He showed me everything that was going to happen. He thought it would scare me into giving up. But instead, it showed me what I needed to do. I wrote the entry, so you would find it. So you would have time to prepare. Prepare for what? The binding I'm about to do, it won't last forever. Nothing does. 22 years is the most I can manage. But you, the you, on the other end of this call, you're stronger than me. You've had 22 years to grow, 22 years to become who you need to be. I don't remember how to do the ritual. I don't remember anything. You will, when the time comes. The memory isn't gone, Danny. It's just buried. Go to the backyard, stand where we stood, and remember. The line went dead. I looked at my mother, at the phone in my hand, at the covered mirrors and draped windows and all the desperate measures we'd taken to hold back something that couldn't be held. What did it say? She asked. I have to go outside. I spent the evening reading and rereading the journal, searching for any clue about the binding ritual. The entries mentioned symbols, words, a specific time, but no details, nothing I could use. At 11 p.m., the temperature in the house dropped 20 degrees in a matter of minutes. Our breath fogged in the air. Frost formed on the insides of the windows, even with the blankets covering them. The whispers were back, louder than before. He's coming, Danny. He's almost here. Can you feel him pressing against the door? Can you feel how hungry he is? And beneath the whispers, another sound. A rhythmic thudding, like a heartbeat. Like something massive, pounding against a barrier, testing its strength, getting ready to break through. At 9 p.m., I went to my old room. It had been converted to a guest room years ago, but some of my childhood things were still there. Books on the shelves, posters on the walls, a mirror above the dresser. I stood in front of the mirror and looked at my reflection. Are you there? I whispered. Can you hear me? Nothing, just my own face staring back at me. I know you're coming back. I read what I wrote. I know about the binding, and I know it's failing. Still nothing. What do you want? Why won't you leave me alone? My reflection smiled. I hadn't smiled. Hello, Danny, my reflection said. It's been so long. I've missed you. I stumbled backward, nearly falling. My reflection didn't move with me. It stayed where it was, standing at the front of the mirror, smiling that terrible smile. You've grown up, it said. I knew you would. I've been watching. Through every mirror, every window, every reflective surface, I've been with you your whole life, waiting for this moment. What do you want? The same thing I wanted 22 years ago, to come through, to be real. You were supposed to help me, Danny. We had a deal, but you cheated. You used that ritual to lock me away instead. I was a child. I was scared. You were strong, stronger than any child I'd ever found. That's why I chose you. That's why I'm going to give you another chance. Another chance? The binding is failing. You can feel it, can't you? The walls between here and there getting thinner. The door opening wider. By 3:33 tonight, it will be open enough for me to come through. And when I do, I'm going to need your help. I won't help you. The smile on my reflection's face stretched wider. Too wide. Inhumanly wide. You don't have a choice. You're mine, Danny. You've always been mine. That deal we made when you were 10, it wasn't just for a year. It wasn't just until you bound me. It was forever. Your soul belongs to me, and tonight, I'm going to collect. The mirror cracked. A single line running from top to bottom, right through my reflection's face. It didn't break completely, just cracked, leaving that horrible, smiling face split in two. See you soon, Danny. And then my reflection was normal again. Just me, just my terrified face staring back. But the crack remained. I didn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room with my mother, both of us watching the clock, watching the hours tick by. At midnight, I told her everything, Ace. The conversation with my reflection. The deal I'd apparently made. the thing that was coming to collect my soul. She cried. I cried. We held each other the way we used to when I was small and scared of thunderstorms. "There has to be something we can do," she said. "Some way to stop it. I don't know the ritual anymore. I don't remember the words. But you knew them once. They're still in there somewhere, in your memory." "Mom, I've tried. I can't remember anything from that year." "Then maybe you need to stop trying to remember with your mind," she said. "Maybe you need to remember with your body." I looked at her, confused. "When you were little and you couldn't sleep, I used to take you outside, to the backyard. You said the stars helped you think. You said they made everything clearer. The backyard, where my parents had found me 22 years ago, standing in a circle of symbols, speaking words I didn't know. Maybe my mother was right. Maybe the memory wasn't in my mind. Maybe it was in the place where it had happened. I went outside at 2 a.m. The night was cold and clear. Stars scattered across the sky like diamonds on black velvet. The same stars I'd looked at as a child. The same backyard where I'd performed a ritual I couldn't remember. The frost from inside the house had spread to the yard. Every blade of grass was coated in white. My breath came out in great clouds that hung in the air before slowly dissipating. I could feel it now. The wrongness, the pressure, like the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for something terrible to happen. I stood in the center of the lawn and closed my eyes. "Please," I whispered, "please let me remember. Please help me stop him." Nothing happened. The night was silent. The stars were cold and distant. I tried to think back, to dig through 22 years of forgetting, to find the child I used to be buried somewhere deep in my mind. And then I felt something, a tug at the edge of my consciousness, a memory trying to surface. I was 10 years old. I was standing in this exact spot. The grass was warm under my bare feet because it was September, still summer. The stars were the same stars. The fear was the same fear. But I wasn't alone then. There was something with me, something that had been with me for months, something I was finally going to stop. The memory sharpened, became clearer. I had spent weeks preparing, reading that old book over and over until I knew every word by heart, practicing the symbols on paper, on dirt, on anything I could find, testing my courage every night, telling myself I could do this. I had to do this, because if I didn't, everyone I loved would die. The memory of that fear was overwhelming, the fear of a child facing something no child should have to face. I had been so scared, innocent, and so utterly, completely terrified. But I had done it anyway, and I could do it again. I opened my eyes, and then, suddenly, I wasn't alone. I felt them before I saw them. Presences in the darkness. Things that existed just outside the edge of perception. I opened my eyes and saw shapes in the shadows. Dozens of them, hundreds, watching me from the trees, from the fences, from every dark corner of the yard. They were waiting. They had been waiting for 22 years. And now their patience was about to be rewarded. Unless I stopped it. "Danny." The voice came from behind me. I turned. It was standing there. The thing from the mirror. Mr. Empty, but it wasn't in a mirror anymore. It was here, in my backyard. Real and solid and terrible. It looked almost human, almost. It had a body, arms, legs, but no face. Just darkness where features should have been. A void in the shape of a man. Looking at it hurt. Not physically, but somewhere deeper. Like staring at the sun, except the sun was made of absence instead of light. "It's not 3:33 yet," I said. "You're not supposed to be here. The binding is almost gone. I'm not fully through, but I'm through enough. Enough to talk, enough to touch, enough to show you what's going to happen." It gestured toward the shapes in the darkness. They moved forward, becoming more distinct. I could see them clearly now. Things that might have been human once, but weren't anymore. Things with too many limbs, too few eyes, mouths where mouths shouldn't be. They were broken, wrong, hungry. "This is what waits on the other side," Mr. Empty said. "Billions of us, more than you can imagine. We've been trapped in the dark for so long, starving, waiting for someone to open the door." "I won't open it." "You don't have a choice." It stepped closer. I could feel the cold radiating off it, a chill that went deeper than temperature, that reached into my bones and squeezed. "You were so brave, Danny. 22 years ago, a 10-year-old boy standing up to something that had terrified grown men. You almost beat me. Almost. But no binding lasts forever. And now here we are. I'll do it again. I'll bind you again. You don't remember how. I'll figure it out." It laughed, a sound like wind through dead leaves. "You don't have time to figure anything out. In less than 2 hours, I'll be fully through. And then all those others you see in the shadows, all my brothers and sisters, they'll come through too. And your world will become like ours. Dark, cold, empty. Why? Why do you want that?" "Because we're hungry, Danny. We've been hungry for so long. And your world is so full of life, so full of light, so full of everything we've never had." It reached out toward me. Its hand, if you could call it that, was made of the same void as its face. Absolute darkness shaped into fingers. Give in. Accept. It's easier that way. The more you fight, the more it hurts. I closed my eyes. Not to hide, but to remember. To reach back through 22 years of forgetting to the child I used to be, the child who had faced this thing and won. I thought about being 10, about Biscuit, about Emily in math class, about the mirror in my bathroom and the face that wasn't a face that had appeared there one day. And slowly, like water seeping through cracks, the memories began to return. I remembered the fear, the terrible, crushing fear of knowing something that no one else could see was real. I remembered lying awake at night, feeling it watching me, hearing its voice in my head. I remembered the library, the book I'd found old and dusty, hidden in a section no one ever visited. The pages that described beings like Mr. Empty, the ritual that could bind them. I remembered practicing the words, drawing the symbols over and over until I could do it from memory, planning the night I would finally stop it. And I remembered standing in this backyard, in a circle of my own making, speaking words that burned my throat, feeling power I didn't understand flowing through me. I remembered the binding. I opened my eyes. "I remember," I said. Mr. Empty stopped. Its void face tilted to one side. "You remember what?" "Everything." I dropped to my knees, started drawing in the dirt. The symbols came back to me one by one, shapes I'd memorized from that old library book. They glowed as I drew them, faint silver light against the dark earth. "Stop," Mr. Empty said. "Stop that right now." I didn't stop. I kept drawing, the circle taking shape around me, the symbols filling in the spaces between. I said stop. It lunged for me, but the moment it crossed the edge of the circle, it recoiled. The symbols flared bright, pushing it back. "You can't do this," it hissed. "The binding won't hold. It didn't hold last time." "Then I'll do it differently this time." I stood in the center of the circle, faced the thing that had haunted my childhood, the thing that had stolen my memories, the thing that wanted to consume my world. And I spoke the words. They came from somewhere deep inside me, somewhere that remembered even when my mind had forgotten. Ancient words, powerful words, words that had been spoken by others before me, by everyone who had ever stood against the darkness and refused to give in. The air around me began to shimmer. The symbols on the ground blazed with light. Mr. Empty screamed, a sound that wasn't a sound, a vibration that shook the very fabric of reality. "You can't," it shrieked. "We had a deal. Your soul is mine." I was 10 years old, I said. I didn't understand what I was agreeing to. And even if I did, some deals are meant to be broken. The light grew brighter. The circle expanded outward, pushing against the shadows, forcing them back. The shapes in the darkness began to dissolve, to fade, to return to wherever they'd come from. "This isn't over," Mr. Empty howled. "I'll come back. I'll always come back. Then I'll always be here to stop you." I spoke the final word. The light exploded outward, pure, brilliant, blinding white that filled the entire yard, the entire neighborhood, the entire world. I felt it wash through me, felt it burn away the darkness that had been hiding in my soul since I was a child. And then it was over. I was kneeling in my backyard, alone. The symbols on the ground were gone, the shadows were just shadows. The night was quiet and peaceful. The clock on my phone said 3:33 a.m. I went inside. My mother was waiting for me, her face streaked with tears. "Is it over?" "For now," I said. "I bound it again, stronger this time. But I don't know how long it will hold." "Then what do we do?" "We remember. That's what went wrong last time. I forgot. I let myself forget, and the binding weakened. But if I remember, if I stay vigilant, if I'm ready for when it tries again, maybe I can stop it for good." She hugged me, held me the way she used to when I was small. "I'm sorry we didn't tell you," she whispered. "I'm sorry we made you forget. You were trying to protect me, I understand. Did it work? Are you okay?" I thought about everything I'd remembered. The fear, the darkness, the thing without a face that had tormented me for a year. The ritual that had almost broken me. "I don't know if I'm okay," I said, "but I'm alive, and I'm going to stay that way." The next morning I went back to the attic. I needed to see the journal again. Needed to understand how I'd written an entry dated tomorrow before any of this happened. The journal was where I'd left it. I opened it to the last page. The entry was gone, not erased, not crossed out. Gone. The page was blank, as if nothing had ever been written there. As if the impossible entry from tomorrow had never existed. But I remembered it. Word for word, I would always remember it. And I understood now. The entry hadn't been a prediction. It had been a warning. A message from the part of me that never forgot. The part that had been watching and waiting for 22 years, knowing this day would come. The child I'd been had saved the man I became. I closed the journal, put it back in the box, climbed down from the attic. My mother was waiting for me in the kitchen. We had a funeral to plan, a house to pack, a life to move forward with. But first, I had something to do. I went to every mirror in the house, every window, every reflective surface. And I looked into each one, looked deep into my own reflection's eyes. "I see you," I said. "I know you're still there. I know you're waiting. And I want you to know that I'm waiting too. I remember everything now, and I will never forget again." My reflection didn't answer, didn't smile, didn't move, but I knew it heard me. I know it's still out there, in the dark, in the spaces between mirrors, hungry and patient and eternal. But so am I. I found my childhood journal in my parents' attic. The last entry in my handwriting was dated tomorrow. And because of what I read there, because of what I remembered, the tomorrow in that entry will never come. Some doors are meant to stay closed, some deals are meant to be broken, and some things, no matter how powerful they are, can be beaten by a scared kid with a library book and the courage to say no. I was that kid once. I'm that man now. And I'll be ready when it tries again.